Sea Security Forum, dear President RECEAN, dear Prime Minister RECEAN, dear Prime Minister Nicolae, esteemed members of the Parliament, esteemed members of the diplomatic bodies, esteemed members of the academia from Romania, the Balkans, and the Black Sea region, dear students, PhD candidates, dear professors, generals, admirals, dear members of the New Strategy Center Board and Scientific Council, dear guests, you can well see the amplitude of this event. We, together with the University of Agronomic Sciences, are organizing and have been organizing for the past 6 months. We have more than 100 guest speakers on topics related to the Ukraine war, reconstruction, resilience, energy resilience, cooperation, disinformation, critical infrastructure, cybersecurity, and many more. Black Sea and Balkan Security Forum, an event of reference, has today and tomorrow worldwide renowned speakers, and we have decided to tackle the war in Ukraine and its multidisciplinary approach. We try to invite the best specialists in the region, in the world, in our country, from the governmental and non-governmental environment, from the business environment, from the academia, from the research field, to tackle vital topics for the two regions. The Balkans and the Black Sea continue to show their significant importance, and we have been organizing for 7 years events related to this region and the topics important for this region, because we want the two regions to be safer, more stable, and secure. Why? Because 7 years ago, New Strategy Center has created a document showing that the Balkans and the Black Sea region are a continuum that face the same challenges. We've witnessed unprecedented changes in the region in the past 2 years, and I invite you to tackle all facets of these topics. Together with Mr. Sorin, the Rector of the University of Agronomic Sciences, we have organized this event that is supported by the NATO Public Diplomacy Group, and this edition is a bit special because we have partners from the US, from the UK, from Germany, from France, Italy, the Netherlands, Bulgaria, Cyprus, Croatia, Estonia, Greece, Malta, Ukraine, and obviously the EU and NATO. And we've organized joint panels. Our academic partners with whom we are organizing the panels are the University of Ovidius in Constanța, Mihai Viteazu Intelligence University, and Universitatea de Vest in Timișoara, together with the University of Agronomic Sciences. And I want to give special thanks to Mr. George Scutaru, who has dedicated the past 8 years of his life to the development of New Strategy Center. I reiterate the fact that we want in the Balkans and in the Black Sea region peace and prosperity. I wish you all the best And now I invite Rector Sorin CîMPEANU to take the floor. Thank you, dear President, dear Prime Minister Nicolae, dear Prime Minister Dorin, RECEAN, Your Excellencies, the representatives of the diplomatic body of the Parliament of Romanian and EU institutions and of the US institutions. I am overwhelmed. I am deeply impressed by the level of this edition of the Black Sea and Balkan Security Forum. I'm deeply honored that the university I am leading is in a partnership with the New Strategy Center, and I want to thank Mr. Ionel NIţU and George Scutaru for that. This security forum has become a tradition now, and now it is organized in a special moment considering the current developments, and the war in Ukraine has global effects on global food security and energy security and freedom of navigation. Food security is highly important because, as we can see, there's a great impact of the grains production in the riparian states. This war has become a battle between a democracy and an autocracy, and the role of our country is that of supporting Ukraine and democratic states in general. And this forum wants to bring to your attention important topics and wants to make us understand the consequences of the developments around us right now. Its final aim is to give the Black Sea region a peaceful environment. Once again, Romania has been supporting the accession process of Ukraine and the Republic of Moldova, and this is an important topic on today's agenda. And I want to welcome His Excellency Dorin, RECEAN, and I want to thank the ones who've organized this event, namely Mr. George Scutaru and Mr. Ionel NIţU, because they were at the forefront of the efforts. I want to invite the Ambassador Sorin DUCARU, who is also President of Honorary Chairman of the Scientific Council. I invite him to take the floor. Good morning. It is my pleasure to be here as an honorary chairman of the Scientific Council. I have another day job at the EU, at the Satellite Center. I would like to give an introduction to the topic of the high-level panel that is opening today's event. It tackles security challenges in the Black Sea region and the need for more resilience of the states affected by current crisis. The NATO allies and EU member states have underlined the importance of focusing more on investments into stability and security in this region. And the current security status after the military invasion of Russia in Ukraine has unfortunately validated the need for this focus and urged some strategic changes in social environment. But not only. This is a strategic wake-up call. Germans call it Zeitenwende, so the change of the historical course. What's important is to correctly assess the situation and focus on resilience and cooperation. And this doesn't only mean supporting Ukraine, who is under ceaseless attack, but also the riparian states such as the Republic of Moldova and the transatlantic community. And this is why at this forum this year we have invited our Prime Minister, Mr. Nicolae, but also the Prime Minister of the Republic of Moldova, Mr. Dorin RECEAN. And now I want to invite them to come on stage and present their own assessments. Afterwards, we will have a Q&A session, and it is my honor to moderate the Q&A session. Dear Prime Minister CIUCă, you are invited to take the floor, and Mr. Dorin RECEAN, you are invited on stage.
Este o deosebită onoare.
It is my honor to present them to you. I know they have a busy schedule. We'll try to be efficient, though. I will only use a few sentences to introduce our first speaker, Mr. Nicolae CIUCă, a personality who dedicated his career to the national security as a career military chief of staff, and as of November 2021, our Prime Minister. So an important personality and a deeply esteemed personality in the North Atlantic community. And I am glad that I had the honor in my career to be part of some of our country's strategic projects. Dear Prime Minister, you are invited to take the floor. Without further ado. Good morning, dear Prime Minister Dorin RECEAN, ladies and gentlemen, dear ministers, dear ambassadors, your excellencies, distinguished guests. Please allow me, before starting my speech, to thank Mr. NIţU and the new strategy team. I want to thank Professor CîMPEANU for the partnership he ensured in the past 7 years, supporting New Strategy Center on highly current topic and extremely relevant, even 7 years ago. And this stands proof for the coherence of our vision in the Black Sea regions and the Balkans, a vision I've always shared in various activities similar to this one and in other formal formats. Thus, we stand here today facing a situation in which we need to ask as many questions as possible. Mr. NIţU promised us a Q&A session, and we'll find answers to our questions in that Q&A session, but I don't know whether those answers will solve the situation. But they will for sure complete the array of preoccupations we have had as agents of security and safety. What I can tell you is that in our region, we need to revise the security context, because this is where the war is unfolding. In this region, the war led by Russia against Ukraine is unfolding, and it has all features of occupational war, and it's a war of Russia against Ukraine's independence, against a Ukraine that wants to be out of the empire. The threats, the risks, the vulnerabilities of this region until now had a conservative approach, a post-Cold War approach, with a Russian Federation that was a rival, a competitor, yes, but also a dialogue partner. But in 2022, we've seen a change in paradigm. It's now a long-lasting war, a war that will be a long-term threat. And the defense industry needs to become a war industry nowadays, and small armies need to be sophisticated armies, professional armies that need to provide security for the entire society and have the capacity to unfold resources. And this protracted war is depleting the resources of the countries involved in the conflict, but also of the EU countries. Freedom of navigation, freedom of surveillance, the exclusive economic zone in the Black Sea, they are all separate components of the security picture. And they ask for the presence of the alliance in the region. We have now forbidden zones for dangerous operations in times of war, and everything was translated in the attack against the American surveillance drone, and an attack against a Polish plane participating at Frontex, and the Russian planes threaten all airplanes and all Ukraine has announced military exercises even before the outbreak of the conflict. And I can remember that I have presented this problem of interdiction areas in the Black Sea that limited freedom of navigation in the Black Sea. So there are also imaginary exercises, imaginary drills and real drillers blocking vessels in ports, intercepting vessels. All these have been direct threats at the maritime security, and they need to be accordingly tackled, and we should fight for our freedom of navigation and also use military vessels to safeguard civil navigation and trade navigation. Not only Odessa-Istanbul route is in danger, but also the east-west navigation route is threatened. We need to safeguard the transit of vessels from Georgia to the western part of the Black Sea. The east-west corridor, Black Sea, the Caspian Sea corridor is cutting through this region, and Romania wants to have a green energy cable and a data cable placed on the Black Sea bed coming from Azerbaijan to Georgia to Romania to Hungary and then to the other EU countries. And we can add multiple references here: the trade corridor, the energy corridor that crosses from east to west the Black Sea, that is under various stages of development. But we can also mention the existing transportation and gas corridor, east-west, the oil and gas from Central Asia, from Kazakhstan to western part of the Black Sea, which is trying to bypass CPC, and we have made important steps on the corridor Kazakhstan-Azerbaijan as a trans-Caspian connection, and then it goes to the BTC pipe. And then loading it on cargo vessels in Constanța. So this corridor from east to west, but also from west to east, needs to be safeguarded. And Romania ordered the assessment of the feasibility of liquefied natural gas from Culevi to Constanța, and we have one station in Culevi, one in Constanța, in order to inject the gas into the gas pipelines through the BRUA system afterwards. That is becoming more and more relevant, and I can see that the General Director Stelian is glad that I mentioned the gas pipelines and gas as being an important issue nowadays. And the gas supply to Europe, if it is viable in the context of the new energy costs, considering the war consequences, might transform Romania into a gas hub for the neighboring countries, for the Republic of Moldova, because we can support them with our own gas production or by securing alternative routes for gas to the Republic of Moldova. Yesterday, in the government meeting, we've approved a memorandum through which the energy ministry structures and companies such as Transgaz, Transelectrica will better profile the interconnectivity, gas and energy interconnectivity between Romania and the Republic of Moldova. Maritime security at the Black Sea is also related to the security of the rigs in the Black Sea and the security of Ukrainian rigs and their resources. And the first responsibility is that of the Romanian state with the Allied support to secure the underwater infrastructure and the maritime infrastructure at the Black Sea for drilling rigs. Considering what has happened in Ukraine 1 year and a half ago, I can say that resilience, because resilience is one of the main topics of this conference. So we can say that resilience presupposes that our societies that politically support the military and the military capabilities to be willing to fight, to be motivated and have the necessary morale to support the expenses incurred by defending one's country. The sacrifice of a nation cannot be replaced by anything else, because a war that involves a country and a military power like Russia will go towards attrition war. And will urge them to rebuild strength again and again and again. So considering these coordinates, we need to revise our defense plans through resilience plans and planning the mitigation of risks. This presupposes the efforts of the entire society, but it also presupposes an allied effort to support Ukraine with everything in our power in order to help them win this war, just as we need to support the Republic of Moldova to oppose the current war and war tendencies, because the Republic of Moldova is interlinked with Ukraine's security. Considering all that, and because my mandate is coming to an end soon, I want to emphasize that after 1 year and a half since I became Prime Minister, I can tell you that Romania does have the human resources, but also the other resources that can consistently support its own resilience. And we could prove that under the circumstances of this conflict at our borders, irrespective of the problems we had to face in the energy field, supply chain, inflation. So irrespective of all these problems, our country has succeeded to have a 4.7% economic growth. We managed to absorb, attract EU funds. We managed to convince our foreign partners, and we have many representatives of various embassies here with us today to attend our conference, and I want to take this opportunity and thank them. We managed to attract foreign investment. We managed to have an honest and strong relationship within our strategic partnerships, starting with the strategic partnership with the US, then with France, the UK, with all partners, and with all those countries that saw our potential and saw the opportunity of boosting the resilience of a region, not only of a country, to consolidate resilience within the North Atlantic Alliance and within the EU. And I am glad that Romania has remained a pillar of stability in the Balkans and the Black Sea region, because Phil and James, my longtime partners, remember that I used to tell them that this country is a regional pillar, a regional pivot. Romania, indeed, today can be considered a regional pillar. Thank you, and I wish you success.
Vă mulțumim frumos, domnule prim-ministru.
Thank you, Prime Minister, for this very detailed presentation on aspects pertaining to the resilience in this region for Romania, going beyond security and energy aspects and so on, and for the conclusion you came to with regard to Romania's capacity to be and continue to grow as a security provider here in the region. I would now like to introduce the Prime Minister of the Republic of Moldova, Mr. Dorin RECEAN. He has 27 years experience in the private or public sector. He has a background in economics and in the intelligence information. He's been the Minister of Information and Communications and Minister of the Interior as well. He worked for international institutions and has a lot of experience in data analysis. He's been presidential advisor to President Maia Sandu and Secretary of the High Security Council, and as of this year has been the Prime Minister of the Republic of Moldova in a very complex security context. Your presence here honors us. Prime Minister, you have the floor. Prime Minister Ciucă, Your Excellencies, ambassadors, I would first of all like to thank New Strategies Center for having organized this series of events. I understand that you have been preparing for the regional challenges in this field of security since your organization has an impressive history with regard to organizing this kind of events. You were right to do so because history has changed. In November or December of 2021, if we met back then and asked ourselves, what is the likelihood for Russia or any other world player to act this way, we would have said that it was little likely. But now, after the brutal invasion of Ukraine by Russia, this risk has materialized. They held the front page of all newspapers and magazines. Once again, if we were to have asked ourselves what's the probability for the Roosevelt engagement not to be abided by in this 21st century, what's the likelihood for two Slavic countries, brothers, to be one against each other, we would have said again that it's very unlikely. However, here we are. It's happening. So the peace and the security today is ensured by Ukraine, and we have to thank them for how they are fighting on the battlefield. They are fighting for us as well, for the EU and for Europe as a whole, and they are fighting for a democratic values system. I would like to thank the Western world and to the EU and to NATO and to all NATO and EU member states that are aiding Ukraine in this endeavor. Our country, the Republic of Moldova, clearly understands its role in this highly challenged security situation. We understand that we need to defend a 1,200-kilometer border, which is the border in a way of the EU. In this context, we've seen an increase in cross-border criminality attempts, and together with countries in the EU and together with the US, we try to deal with these challenges. The situation in the Black Sea region is clear. I think it became even more clear when Russia occupied Crimea in 2014. This process of negotiation of several routes or logistic corridors has proved to be important and has proved all the importance of the Black Sea. The Republic of Moldova has weathered the storm, has went through this winter, and I have to thank Romania. I have to thank Bucharest and President Iohannis, as well as Prime Minister Ciucă and President Marcel Ciolacu, because when we were faced with a critical situation, especially with regard to energy supplies, Romania stepped in quite swiftly and helped us overcome the challenges. And I have to tell you that if at the beginning of the war the energy consumption of Moldova came from Russia entirely, nowadays we no longer depend on Russian energy supplies. We no longer consume natural gas from Russia. The Republic of Moldova has already been integrated into the European energy network from a trade point of view as well. We are faced with hybrid attacks. There are no missiles falling on our soil. However, we are being attacked through hybrid means, propaganda, cyber attacks, various kinds of protests that have been paid for by Russia to destabilize our country. Disinformation actively supported by various Russian TV channels. Against all that, we tried to consolidate the capacities of our institutions. And we also need to focus on the security and economic agenda at the same time. The Republic of Moldova has had a big leap with regard to understanding the security, the neutrality status. We understood that that neutrality cannot defend you if one of the parties does not respect it, and I mean Russia. That is why our society is seriously discussing right now the need to consolidate our defense capacity, whereas we previously considered that having this neutrality status, we didn't need to strengthen our defense capacities. Things have changed, we are aware of that, and we basically doubled our defense budget. We also increased the budgets allotted to various security aspects, and we now have a clear-cut plan to increase our defense. We also aim to take part to international operations, to attend various missions aimed to strengthen the human capacity in the defense and security fields, and to take part in those exercises ensuring interoperability according to NATO standards. And I would like to thank Romania and NATO and its member states, as well as to the European Union, for helping us to develop this security and defense capacity in our country. Once again, thanks to that, we also can contribute much more to regional security. Within this context, we have also launched a conversation that other countries also have. That is, countries which understand that they need to be part of a collective security architecture in the region. So I can tell you that in Chișinău, in our country, we are debating these aspects, and even more than that, we have taken responsibility and we are committed towards these aspects. We are trying to explain to our citizens that this is a context and that the Republic of Moldova needs to ensure its security on the long term. So we understand that this is imperative now. President Sandu defined our future plans, that is to apply for membership to the EU. We are quite aggressive in the positive sense of the word in this regard. We are trying to align our institutions and legislation to the community acquis, so that in the end the Republic of Moldova will be a member state of the EU. This said, I would like to thank you for your attention. Thank you, Prime Minister. I am aware that you have a flight to catch, so we have less than 10 minutes for questions. I had myself prepared some questions, but I've received an answer to some of them from your presentation. So I have a question for Mr. Ciucă and another for Mr. RECEAN. Prime Minister Ciucă, you have taken over your mandate in a very complicated security context for Romania, for the region as a whole, in November-December 2021. And then, in the beginning of 2022, Russia invaded Ukraine. In your intervention, you have presented all the economy and energy and resiliency contextual aspects. I would like to ask a question about the other aspect of resilience, that is, the resiliency of the community as a whole, of the alliance, and of all the other supporters of Ukraine. Because the way that Ukraine is holding up to this attack is important for not only the region, but for the whole Euro-Atlantic community. So how do you assess the capacity to maintain this resilience? What actions or initiatives we should implement in order to avoid this war fatigue? It's mandatory, it's essential for us to stick together, to stay united in this very dangerous context. Thank you for your question. This is an issue to which many experts or specialists are trying to find an answer. And to me, part of the solution should rely on our capacity, on our leaders' capacity to understand the danger. Once you've done that, you can then design consequences and effects. And based on that design, you will be able to ask the proper questions, probably questions you yourselves will be asking during this conference. Some will have very good answers, will find very good answers here, especially at leadership level. We have advisors amongst us and in the administration structures, and I think that these experts, advisors, will manage to put together the solutions allowing us to make decisions as we go forward. So, coming back to resiliency, I think that this goes currently well beyond the essence of the expression of the word itself. Why am I saying that? Because when we speak about resiliency, we mainly speak about security. So we look at it in the light of security aspects, so security structures, what each and every structure can do. But what happens in Ukraine has proven that resiliency is much more than that. It has a social component as well as an economic component. That is why I have spoken about the flexibility of our economies and of our industries, about our capacity to swiftly manufacture those equipments and weapons which are necessary for the countries within the alliance, for countries within the democratic world, and for our capacity to continue supporting Ukraine and to help the Republic of Moldova. We hear people talking about how to maintain solidarity. I think that Russia is counting on that, on an attrition warfare, and they are waiting for it to start creating breaks and gaps within the society, to wear us down. And when the general population is too tired, the leaders will take a decision as a consequence. So, as Dorin was saying earlier, we need to speak to our population, to our citizens. We need to explain to them what is going on, what could happen, what the consequences could be, why we should support Ukraine, and why we should take these measures which take us out of the beaten path to which we've been accustomed in the past. We've learned some lessons from the Second World War, and we had hoped that these lessons were acquired once and for all. Well, present times, reality has proven us it was not the case. Now we have to take action in order to protect our citizens and to protect our lifestyle, our democratic values, the international law principles, and the rule of law. These are the things that we need to focus on and to communicate on them with our population, because if we don't, we'll create an arena where others will take the floor, and we know who they are, and we've seen what they can do and how good they are at doing it. We'll see misinformation, propaganda, and elements trying to change people's perception. Not everyone is knowledgeable with regard to security measures or what can happen in case of conflict. But Here you have it, a conflict at our borders. And it's important, it's paramount that we speak to everyone in order to make them understand that what they may find on different media outlets is true. And something else, I think that it's also important for political leaders to regain their citizens' trust. If we have a lack of trust, it is very damageable, not only in smaller communities, but within the society as a whole.
Dorin RECEAN.
Thank you, Prime Minister. Prime Minister Dorin RECEAN, allow me to congratulate you and President Maia Sandu for your resilience and keeping up with the EU agenda, the EU accession agenda. What other priorities do you have, and what are your expectations from the European partners, including Romania as a member of the EU, to support your goal? We need to focus on this agenda. We have 9 preconditions to deliver. So fight against corruption, justice reform. We should focus on corruption and capital. They should not be allowed to control the politics anymore. We want to come closer to the EU model from an institutional point of view and regulatory point of view. We have a process to transpose the community acquis and really implement these changes at the institutional level. So we need to do all that and at the same time fight against various crises we are faced with. For example, the hybrid war. Russia is conducting against us, an inflation that is rocketing, but we managed to overcome certain crises such as the energy crisis because we managed to secure our energy due to friendly countries such as Romania. So we need to explain to all EU member states that a larger Europe means a more resilient and stronger Europe, and I want the role of the Republic of Moldova to be appreciated because we play a role in ensuring regional security, and the integration of the Republic of Moldova in the EU is an opportunity for the business of environment in Europe and for all European citizens, and this is our duty to present our contribution to the great European project. Thank you very much. One more thing. Dear Prime Minister, you didn't mention one aspect, but I think we need to emphasize one important issue. In order for the Republic of Moldova to withstand, to resist all these challenges, we need to create jobs for the Moldavian citizens, because every government will find it difficult to face such an economic crisis and tackle the accession plans at the same time. Thank you very much, dear NIČU, dear Prime Minister. This message coming from you is even more valuable. Thank you. Please, a round of applause for the two prime ministers, and for this unique opportunity of having them together on stage.